With less than 3 weeks to go until the Democratic caucuses, it's looking like a four-candidate race in Iowa, but it's not clear if anyone currently has an advantage. A poll released yesterday from Monmouth University shows former Vice President Joe Biden leading with 24% of support. He's 6 points ahead of Bernie Sanders, with Pete Buttigieg and Elizabeth Warren closely behind. A separate poll had the same four candidates on top, but in a different order. This survey, conducted by legendary Iowa pollster Ann Selzer, shows Sanders in the lead, followed by Warren, Buttigieg, and then Biden in fourth. Kate Payne joins me now to help break down the state of the race in Iowa. She is a reporter for Iowa Public Radio. She's also the co-host of the IPR podcast, Caucus Land. Kate, thanks very much for being with us. Less than half of respondents told Monmouth they have firmly decided who they'll support on caucus night. So how much should we expect the race to change over the next 20 days?
It absolutely can change over the next less than 3 weeks. That's something that we're hearing from caucus goers anecdotally on the trail. A lot of people are really having a hard time deciding. And I'll ask them, what is it going to take to get you to that final decision? Folks really want to see what news comes out. They want to take the time to look over these policies again. Some of them feel like they're just going to make a gut decision when it comes down to it. But we're hearing again and again that people are really taking every moment of the next just about 3 weeks until caucus night to make that final decision.
Well, in that Monmouth poll, respondents were asked for their first choice if only Biden, Sanders, Warren, and Buttigieg are viable at their caucus site. First, explain what it means to be deemed viable. Then we'll look at the results.
Yes. So again, as far as viability, folks should remember that the Iowa caucuses are not a primary. There are no ballots. There are no voting booths. Iowans are physically going to different community centers across the state to show their support physically by standing in a candidate's corner with other supporters. And so in order for a candidate to be viable, they have to clear that 15% threshold. They have to earn 15% of the support in the room in order to earn delegates. Those folks that are in groups that are not viable, that don't have 15%, have the opportunity to pick someone else. They can also leave and go home. But that is a key part of this Iowa caucus process, that those folks who are drawing in less support than the front runners will be able to choose somebody else.
So on that question, Biden, Sanders, and Buttigieg are all right near each other, while Elizabeth Warren is right near that line of viability at 16%. Should that concern her campaign?
It's certainly something that they're going to be thinking about as far as trying to make sure that they have supporters locked down in as many of the state's 1,600 precincts as they possibly can. These campaigns are working right now to designate dedicated precinct-level leaders who will be whipping the vote, per se, in these caucus sites to try and make sure that they can win over those last few persuadable voters. Of course, in the past few days, we saw that Senator Cory Booker of New Jersey has suspended his campaign. There are a lot of folks in the state who either were leaning towards him, maybe not as a first choice, but as a second choice, maybe as a third choice candidate. You can bet that these campaigns are going to be looking to those Booker supporters to try and win them over now.
So how important will the campaign's organizing operations and precinct captains be?
It's essential. It's essential. Again, those precinct captains are the ones who are responsible there on caucus night, designated by the campaigns to try and win over those last few supporters and keep tabs of what is their viability, have they cleared that, and then again trying to win over those last few uncommitted caucus goers, people who are unviable. So with Senator Amy Klobuchar of Minnesota, if she doesn't clear that viability mark, she also will be one of those groups that other campaigns will be looking at of how can they win over those supporters, what sort of issues are persuasive to those voters. These are all things that precinct captains will be thinking about as they head into caucus night.
And Kate, you have some new reporting on the new smartphone app the Iowa Democratic Party is going to use on caucus night. You report the app will be used despite security concerns. What were the concerns and were they addressed?
Yeah, so in the wake of the 2016 elections, where Russian actors targeted American election system through cybersecurity attacks, there are these standing concerns about different ways that we may mix the internet and democracy. So again, the Iowa Democratic Party this year will be using a smartphone-based app to transmit and tabulate these results, these precinct-level results. And so precinct-level leaders will be sending in those results to the state party over this app. This app will be downloaded to the personal devices of precinct-level leaders, of state officials. So the concern there is that there are questions from cybersecurity experts of, is this app robust enough? Are the security audits and vulnerability testing being done to ensure that this device, this software cannot be interfered with? The Iowa Democratic Party, the DNC, are working together on these security tests, they tell us, but they're not sharing specific information about who the app developer is, what testing has been done out of security concerns. Cybersecurity experts that me and a colleague at NPR spoke with said that there is still information that the IDP could release without exposing this software. Without some of these basic fundamentals, a lot of questions remain.
Well, before we go, I want to ask about calls to change the order of Democratic nominating contests. 68% of respondents told Monmouth Iowa and New Hampshire have the right amount of influence in deciding the nominee, but 51% also said it would be a good idea to allow one or two other states to hold a primary on the same day as Iowa. What do you hear about the idea of changing the primary calendar?
So every 4 years, this is an issue that comes up. Every 4 years, the Iowa caucuses comes under scrutiny, and this year is just the same. It does seem that there is more concern this year than in past years, that some of these concerns are more serious, more critical than in past years. Certainly, the Iowa Democratic Party's line is that the Iowa caucuses are an institution, that they are a historical part of the American democratic system, and that the Iowa caucuses are a key way to build democratic support in the state and Republican support in the state. The parties are united on this. But I am hearing from Iowa voters, Iowa caucus goers within the Democratic Party, some of them at different levels of leadership, that they feel that this system is becoming outdated in some ways, that it's not holding up to some of the ideals that particularly the Democratic Party puts forward as far as accessibility for voters, as far as ensuring that this is a transparent process, that one person, one vote, that people can participate. So it's certainly something that Iowa Democrats, voters across the country, will be watching. And depending on how this system works on caucus night, what the results are, who the ultimate victors are in this process, that could absolutely impact what the ultimate outcomes are as far as the future of the Iowa caucuses and Iowa being first.
All right, Kate Payne in Des Moines for us. Kate, thank you.
Thank you.